According to our Adrian Wojnarowski and Zach Lowe, many NBA owners, executives, and NBPA elders believe in June, Adam Silver will greenlight a return to play. Yes, sir. Games expected to resume sometime before the end of July. The NBA put out these player guidelines for the return. They are expecting the league will allow team to recall players around June 1st. They also expect larger workout groups to be allowed. They're discussing a 2-week recall period, 1 to 2 weeks of individual workouts, 2 to 3 weeks of formal training camp. Here's the Lakers' Jared Dudley on this new reality.
I think that people are getting a misconception. It's going to be a bubble in a sense of, hey, here's going to be your hotel where you stay at. Here's going to be the gym where you're playing at. But you will be allowed to leave. Michelle Roberts have said it, and even Adam Silver on the conference call. Now, just because you leave, like if we're going to give you that leeway, if you come back with corona, you can't play. So we're going to be tested all the time. And so it would be smart of teams. So like Braun, AD, and all the top guys that we have, we'll be wrapping them in bubble and not letting them go anywhere. Let's just be honest. They can't leave. And so and you would want that to be a team rule.
That's a true story. Get that bubble wrap type. Stephen Naismith, you are up first. Should all 30 teams return?
Hell no. Absolutely not. Let's get a couple of things out of the way first. Steve Kerr is on the record saying that he doesn't believe the Golden State Warriors should come back. I mean, they're 15-50. This season is over. Okay, what are you coming back for? Don't get me started with Minnesota. They don't need to be back. We're not going to miss them. Who else is there? The Phoenix Suns, I guess you could throw them in there, even though they're 13 games under 500. I still like the job that Monty Williams has done, but they're not really in the equation. In the Eastern Conference, what are we supposed to do? Hold out hope that the Washington Wizards are going to squeeze it? Are you kidding me? Give me a break. The fact of the matter is we're living in very unique times, obviously. There's a global pandemic that's taken place. 36+ million people have filed for unemployment. We understand the dire circumstances that exist. We understand what exists economically as well. But if we're talking truly about safety, then why would we have unnecessary individuals involved in the process? There are at least 12 teams that have no business even being thought about this time of year. They'd have been home anyway. I mean, where were they going? I mean, come April, they were going to be home. We are now in the May. They would have been home watching anyway. We ain't going to miss them. The bottom line is that you look at some of the top teams, that's a given. You look at some of the teams that got an outside shot in the Western Conference. What do you got? You got about 3 teams battling. You got Portland there on the outside looking in there 3.5 games back. New Orleans, Sacramento to a lesser degree. I get all of that. And if you wanted to make the argument about that, I personally don't think it should. I have no problem with the formal workouts taking 2 to 3 weeks of formal training camp, that is, and then after that going into the playoffs. But if you wanted to have some kind of play-in game for those few teams, I don't know how you would do it, but I guess it's something that I'd entertain. But all 30 teams coming back, no way in hell. The coronavirus, you got people on the record saying they're concerned. They have concerns. They're a bit worried. Why expose unnecessary personnel to unnecessary risk if you know that you would be home anyway? Makes no sense.
I could go for a play-in tournament and just essentially have the playoffs, but that's what you're talking about. Get rid of the rest of the regular season. The fact of the matter is, Stephen A., that every season it has been found after 20-something games, we not only know who's going to be in the playoffs, we know the order for the most part. Seeding 1 through 8 most seasons, most of them. So most of the rest of the regular season for the no-hopers, what's the point of that, right? So what are we doing here is the question. The NBA is an entertainment product. The athletic competition takes place within the lines, but the product itself, the business of putting these games on, it's a business. Trying to entertain people, which, as you've mentioned many times, people are really missing through the quarantining and social distancing as a result of this pandemic. So what do we have now? The chance for the NBA to come back, and I said from the beginning, I thought of all the team sports leagues, the major team sports, the NBA had the best shot to get this done because there are fewer people involved. The commissioner seems not to be starry-eyed, but realistic and forward-thinking. How could this get done? And as it turns out, Stephen A., it looks like they can get it done before the winter. Officials at the CDC have been saying now for a couple months, this could get worse. The second wave could be much worse than the first one in the winter because it coincides with the flu season. So, and if you look at the Spanish flu and historical precedents, you see that the second wave sometimes is worse than the first. That takes place in the cold months. People suspect, and health experts suspect. So that could be a problem for football. I think a much bigger one than people realize. But the NBA, basketball, it looks like they have a window here. The thing to determine is how long is that window? How big is it? Do they think realistically? And what can you get done in that window? If they determine we can finish this regular season and get the playoffs in, then why wouldn't you do it? You think that, Stephen A., look, the Knicks are no-hopers. You mentioned a bunch of teams that are no-hopers. If those games are on right now, if there was one on tonight, would you watch it? Because I would.
Yeah, no, but that's not the point, really. See, the point that I'm trying to make is that you're talking about, listen to what they're talking about. They're talking about a couple of weeks at best of a regular season before the playoffs begin. I think that when you take into account the magnitude of this particular situation, if you have a definitive date, let's just say, for example, Max, they say the games are starting back July 15th. But before July 15th, from July 1st to July 15th, we're going to play these games with people that we know ain't making the playoffs. Now you're going to bring in the question, excuse me, we're talking about this pandemic here. Why are you, because you got to remember, all of those people require tests. Remember, the 15,000 tests the NBA said that they would probably need, along, because of personnel, because of the players and what have you. Well, we got to test these folks. Why are we going through all of that for dudes that's going home in 10 days? I think the public, under those circumstances, can stomach waiting an additional 10 days. It's the indefinite period, it's the indefinite absence issue that's affecting people. We don't know when or if sports is coming back definitively. That's what's bothering you. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.